Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Pekarek, you'll have 3.5 minutes for your rebuttal.
Well, I definitely agree, Mayor, that we have to have things that will happen right now. And that's exactly what my plan is. My plan will actually happen now. It will deal with the crisis at its root cause. It will cure the problem. The real problem is this is consumer debt, a different kind of debt and loan from capital homesteading. Capital homesteading is productive credit. This is to actually generate incomes immediately. And these will be loans that will be producing income from the very beginning. That's dealing with the problem now. And we'll be still creating jobs at the same time. In fact, we'll be creating more jobs by this additional new productive credit that is going to be given to every citizen. But instead of the loan going to the people that already have the money, you're going to have the loan going to the individual citizen. $7,000 a year in productive income every citizen in the country will have. This will go a great way in expanding the economy with full production, and full production will create jobs that will be comparable to China in a double-digit growth, and this is exactly what we need to do. A lot of people have said that when are we going to come up with this? This is already in place. The Federal Reserve was set up to put out productive loans in 1913, but hasn't been putting out loans since 1917, those same loans since 1917. So after that, they came up with consumer credit. And we fall into the thing that we have $11 trillion, or have $11 trillion in debt. We don't need that. We need to have the kind of debt and credit that makes us money that will never have to have an IOU owing for our children to pay off what we have done instead of making that money initially. I'm saying this is very doable. This is right now. Nobody else is speaking of this, but you could be history right here in this district, because when I get to Washington, I'm going to be speaking for everybody, and I'm going to get everybody a stake in our growing economy. And that's so very important, that everybody will have a growing capital estate that is making them money in addition to their jobs. And this will cure our housing crisis, because we'll actually have the foreclosures being able to not cost the taxpayer anything. Our debt will not cost the taxpayer anything. This bailout for $1 trillion will cost us almost nothing under my plan, because my plan will actually be giving credit to the people, and that'll be what we need to do to move forward. I just want to assure you that I'm here to represent everybody in the district with dignity and respect that they deserve as a person. Everyone will be represented justly, whites, blacks, Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, young people, seniors, veterans, voters, non-voters, contributors, non-contributors, whether they vote for me or agree with me or not, because this is their seat.
Thank you, candidates. We now return to the City Club Vice President, Jan Roller, for some brief announcements.
Today at the City Club of Cleveland, we are listening to a debate between the candidates for United States Congress for Ohio's 11th Congressional District. Now we would like to proceed with the question and answer portion of our debate. Holding microphones today are City Club Development Director Jessica Allen and Assistant Development Director Marcella Brown. Let's return to Eric Wellman.
Thank you, Jan. We'll now have the traditional City Club question and answer period. Questions addressed to a specific candidate will be answered by that candidate, and they'll have 1 minute. The other candidate may have 30 seconds to respond. Questions addressed to both candidates will be answered by both candidates, and they'll each have 1 minute. As the moderator, I reserve the right to ask any candidate a follow-up question or ask for clarification, and those responses will be 30 seconds. To the audience, I thank you in advance for your cooperation by making these questions, stating them as briefly and as clearly as possible. The first question for our candidates, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Leslie Huff, and I'm a lawyer practicing in Cleveland. I have a diverse practice because Cleveland and the 11th District is a diverse district. My question is for both candidates, both the esteemed Marcia Fudge, mayor of Warrensville, excuse me, I didn't want to say the wrong city, and Thomas Pekarek. Thank you very much for offering to serve. My question has to do with the people, the real people that I see, and I'm going to describe very briefly two kinds of folks. The 18-year-old who has a year-old child who is trying to finish high school and working at Walmart. I'd like for you to talk about how your administration, your representation of that young woman would be affected by your policy and your, in the case of Mr. Pekarek, your Capital Homesteading Act. The second person I'd like to describe is the elder who's 85 years old and has worked all of her life cleaning someone's house in order to save enough money to buy a home. She's hanging on by a thread. She's gotten a new loan, a second mortgage to get her house repaired. I'd like for you to talk to me about how that person who has declining health would be affected by your representation of them, either one or both of those scenarios in your new administration. Thank you.
Thanks for that question. Mr. Pekarek, would you like to answer first?
Sure. With the Capital Homesteading Act, both of those people will be served much more expeditiously. First of all, the younger person will have a greater increase of their income as they progress and get older. That child, as well as that adult, is going to have a portion of ownership. I mean, this $7,000 per year of credit for ownership in property will go to every citizen. And then that's why I say that as it builds up, that's giving them an income for their family and help them along. And the same thing is the case for the elderly. This is to augment their Social Security and whatever retirement they have, and to really empower them so that they don't die in destitution and take care of their medical bills. And this would be a help to them in every way.
Ms. Fudge, you have 1 minute.
Yes. For the young person you talked about, Attorney Huff, there are three things that need to happen. One is we need to raise the minimum wage. When you work at a Walmart or some other similar kind of a retail facility, generally you're at $5.15 an hour. It is the lowest effective minimum wage we have had in more than 35 years. So we need to raise the minimum wage. That's the first thing. Secondly, for a young person with a child, we need to expand SCHIP. I talked about the state children's health insurance program, which the Congress indeed did try to expand and include millions more children, but it was vetoed by the president. So that's why it's going to be really important when the Democrats take back the House that we're going to get it passed and it's going to be veto-proof. But we have to do that. The third thing we need to do is we need to expand the Earned Income Tax Credit as well as expand Medicaid and so that we can cover all people like her. And for the senior person, we need to have better access to goods and services. That's the first thing. Because most people who are elderly or who are poor live very far from things they need. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Let's take another question.
My name is Councilwoman Deborah Hill from Warrensville Heights, and I want to publicly thank Mayor Marcia Fudge for her vision, her energy, and her leadership in the city of Warrensville Heights.
Thank you.
And I am glad that you brought up the question of health care, because my question has to do with, although we have two renowned health care facilities here in the 11th Congressional District,